right, what is up?
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the happy hour once again this week. I'm Andy Crane. Yes, asking, is it race season yet? Partner, we're almost here. There's cars going to Los Angeles right now for the first NASCAR race.
I was more waiting for the short track Super Series.
Well, that's true. Unfortunately, Mother Nature seemed to be the best of that one, right?
So tough one.
That does stink, especially for the guys who were traveling down early. But listen, they got Florida coming up. Big Florida swing. We got a driver who's, knows all about the Florida swing coming up as we're going to talk to the Ging'a Ninja, Jack Lahner. We call it, well, I guess we should start with this. We call this episode kind of the young and the restless. Jack Lahner, a young gun in the world of dirt modified racing, runs both the short track Super Series and Super Dirt Series stuff. Really a kid trying to make a name for himself and doing a pretty damn good job of it so far. And then we go to the restless, multi-time track champion, both at the Fonda Speedway and Devil's Bowl. The Poltley Flash, Dave Camara, going to join us in a little while too. I said it was a decade. After looking it up, it looks like Dave's been gone for 20 years.
Oh yeah, he's been on a long time.
It's been wild, and just kind of looking at the stats, he was still very competitive. He was still getting it done. And then just kind of walked away, and we're going to talk to him all about it and his desire to come back. And he's teamed up with Wes Moody this year, the Moody Mile Motorsports team, which very good team, especially for Fonda. They've been racing there the last couple of years, and we're going to talk to him all about it. So two great drivers.
I always said that this game is like a disease, man. There's no cure for this. No matter how long you're away, it just sucks you back in. It's brutal.
I want to say, was it Richard Childress who said, once you do it once, it's in your blood for the rest of your life. And listen, absolutely true, right? It's, I've
been there before. I had it. I got out, got back in it.
It's hard. I did the same thing, and I got out, and I blame Willie Ochmoody, who made me come back and do a podcast with him. And that started to get the ball rolling to go do other things. And here I am with you now. So I just can't get rid of it. So big news, we'll say locally big news for the Whelen Modified Tour. Doug Coby, five-time. He's won a lot of championships in the Whelen Modified Tour. We'll just say that. He is signed on to drive for Tommy Baldwin Racing full-time in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Jimmy Blewett's going to drive for him down in Florida for Speed Weeks, and we're reaching out to Jimmy. We're going to try to get him on the show, maybe not next week, but maybe the week after, because he's a little busy down in New Smyrna coming up this week. But, Doug drove for Tommy Baldwin last year, kind of in a three-headed monster, we'll say, driver lineup with Jimmy Blewett and Michael Christopher. And they made the decision they're going to go chase another championship. So for the Whelen Modified Tour partner, that's a big full-time team with a full-time effort with Doug Coby and Tommy Baldwin.
Yeah, I said I'm not real familiar. That's all you, man. That asphalt Whelen Modified stuff. I like watching them, but I'm like I said, I watch sometimes on Friday from Stafford. But that's all your ball game right there. Glad you're on top of it.
It's a big deal, man. It's I wondered what that deal was, and it was a question that I was going to ask Showtime when we get them on. Is sharing a ride. I mean, I did that in the IMSA series for a little while, the road course endurance stuff. That it's just different, where there's one race car and three drivers. You don't really see it on the oval side of things. And Tommy Baldwin Racing did it last year on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, and they won the Owners Championship, which is something you almost see only at the bigger levels when they get those filler feeder teams from RCR or Joe Gibbs or something. Well, they did it on the Whelen Modified Tour last year, but now Doug Coby's going to drive full time for TB, which I think is pretty cool. It's a pretty big deal for the asphalt side of things. Keeping it kind of asphalt, if you've been checking social media, a lot of drivers have been announced for SRX. And a lot of other, drivers that you wouldn't really expect being a part of it in season, because there are a lot of active drivers.
I just saw Keselowski going to run full time.
Yep.
Saw it. That was kind of surprising.
You got Kurt Busch. You got Keselowski. Harvick's going to run a handful. Boyer's retired, but he's still in it. It's kind of becoming like a Cup light.
Danny Hamlin too.
That's right, Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's very interesting that NASCAR allows their guys to do that.
Well, that's kind of my question. I've kind of reached out to a couple guys on it that I know down south of. Is it something that's, they're seeing all these big name drivers jump into Tony Series? Is it something that's starting that you might see a rule change here pretty soon?
Right.
Of drivers doing, being allowed. I mean, how could you tell Kyle Larson he can't go race like a midget car or a late model car? And tell these guys they can't go run SRX or something. But I thought it was very interesting that it's kind of, they're getting away kind of from the IndyCar guys. They're getting away from kind of the road racing guys. And it's kind of becoming a Cup series with Tony's deal.
Yep, absolutely. And it's a good deal too.
I think so. I think, it's been very exciting, very entertaining. ESPN has the contract now. So, SRX is going to be interesting for sure. Only really dirt racing thing. I saw Jonathan Davenport won a big race in the dirt late models down south. Really, everything's going to kind of get going here in the next week or two, at least for the Northeast guys, where, Speed Weeks kind of swings for them down on the Sunshine Tour. And, talking to a lot of guys this week, they're all getting ready. They're all prepping for it. And, we'll have a lot to cover, a lot to talk about, certainly for next week. Well, let's talk to a guy, partner, that, like we said, the young gun, who's we got to ask him if he's going to make the trip down south. I'm not 100%, but he's certainly been making a name for himself on the Super Dirt Series. And, of course, the Short Track Super Series. He's a driver of the Benson's Pet Service, Napa Auto Parts, number 2. Let's welcome the Ging'a Ninja himself, Jack Lahnert.
What's going on, guys?
There he is. Jack, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So, first question right off the bat, very curious. Who gave you the nickname the Ging'a Ninja?
Oh, so it's kind of a funny story. It was David Schilling that gave it to me, but it was like, I want to say 4 years ago or so. I would think it was my first sportsman race I won. And just like on Facebook, I like shared the article or whatever. And he just commented Ging'a Ninja, and like it like blew up. Everybody loved it. And then the announcer over at Albany Saratoga, he just started saying it. And then ever since he started saying it, I guess I'm stuck with it now. So, but
listen, everybody knows you as it for sure. I mean, I hear Shane Andrews in my head right now screaming Ging'a Ninja in my head. Give us your kind of your background. You're a fresh face on the series. You've been around now a couple of years, but where'd you get started? How'd you get into racing? Kind of give everybody the backstory of the Ninja.
Well, so I guess from the start, I started racing go-karts when I was 4 years old. My dad was always a big race fan growing up, and he raced actually street stocks at Lebanon Valley when he was around my age, and raced go-karts, did all sorts of whatever racing he could do at the time. So, first chance when I was old enough, we actually lied about my age, and he stuck me in a go-kart, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And like for a while, it was just like a fun thing to do with dad. But, as I got a little bit older and, moving up to like, I guess the more competitive ranks of go-karts, we ran really well, and you just kind of took to it and kind of just took off from there.
When did you make the jump into modifieds? Or let's just say a dirt modified, a sportsman car.
So I was 16, and I actually went road racing with my dad. So he does like SCCA spec racer road racing. So I went and did that. And then Ray Sefrin, who at the time owned Rocky Warner's cars, that year Rocky had gone to drive for Jake. So Ray had a couple cars in his shop, and we were kind of just like good friends with him through doing business in the Napa store and everything. And he offered for me to run one of his cars, like in the limited sportsman at Glen Ridge. And we did some races at Fonda and one at Malta. And then once we did that, I don't know, that kind of, the dirt racing grabbed my attention pretty good. So then we ended up buying that car and went and raced limited sportsman the next year, and then just kind of worked our way up from there. I think that was 2016 that I really started like my first year running dirt cars.
Now, partner, I was an instructor at Skip Barber for a little while, and I always said that if you were a good road racer, you'd be a really good slick track, dirt track racer. Jack, back me up on that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a lot of skills that you learn in either division that would cross over to help you, in either one. I think like a lot of the big things that from the road racing that has helped me a lot is like the braking. You know what I mean? So like with road racing, under braking, that's where you make a lot of your passes, make up a lot of your time, threshold braking, braking as deep as you can, and I feel like that's helped me with the modified stuff. And then like Token said, especially if we get to race in the rain, which I got to race in the rain quite a bit, that's like wicked slick. So you just learn like a lot of car control, keeping the car straight, trying to keep your momentum up. So yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that, especially.
So what was it like, the big jump? And I always like asking modified drivers, especially young modified drivers. You go from sportsmen to modifieds, the guys that you kind of grow up idolizing, watching, studying, you're now lining up next to and going out and racing with. What is that like for a driver?
It was definitely cool. Like you said, like at the beginning, a little bit of like starstruckness, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. I got over that pretty quick. I thought everyone was pretty welcoming, like in the modified ranks and stuff. I was parked right near Brett Hearn for a while there at Malta, and he was always really cool, kind of a little bit of a mentor one way or the other. But yeah, I mean, like the going from the sportsman, it's such a big jump from the sportsman, and then got in a small block, and it was like you get in the small block, and you think this thing's got a ton of horsepower, like this is crazy, we're flying around here. And then you go from the small block to a big block, and it's like that all over again. But yeah, I know it's definitely cool racing with the guys you get to race against, and there's a lot of respect I think out there in the field, and especially like the Super Dirt Car Series. I really like doing those races because everybody in the field's really good, and we can race really hard and usually not tear up much equipment. So it's definitely a lot of fun racing with those guys.
So the great Gary Montgomery always said, the gray beards ruled back in the day with the Super Dirt Series. You're young blood, so going to all these new tracks and going up these longer distance races. How big of a learning curve was it? Do you feel comfortable on the series now?
I think so. I don't know. It's so tough, and a lot of it is learning. Like you said, the graybeards rule because they've been around for so long. They've done it for so long. They've seen it all. We can be at any track in any situation, and the guys that have been doing it for a long time, they can remember a couple instances that's similar to that, and kind of go off of their notes from that. So I think that was like the biggest struggle going into it is like going to tracks that we don't know. We're not really sure what to do tire wise, car wise. Granted, I'm still learning and developing as a driver, learning and developing as setting the car up and running my program. So, there is a lot that goes into like having a successful modified team, especially when you're running the tour and running all over the place. And that's where you see like the guys that have the experience really can consistently be up front. But I feel like lately we've had the speed to be able to compete in the series, and now it's just all about like putting it all together. So some tracks we go to that we're good at, we're very competitive, and then some tracks we struggle at and we're not very competitive. So that's I think as we go and keep learning, and like if I were to look back 2 years ago, I'd think I didn't know anything 2 years ago, and probably 2 years from now I'll say the same thing about myself now. So just keep learning and keep digging, and hopefully be a consistent front runner, every single time out.
So what do you say the on the dirt tour? What's the hardest track that you think that you say you can't really get a handle of, or you just cringe when you got to go there?
Me personally is weed sport.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I struggle at weed sport. We've had like okay runs there. Like I think I've maybe 1 or 2 top 10s there. And like if I run 10th at weed sport, I'm excited about it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's me as a driver or if we got to figure something out a little bit better with the car. I mean, we're always trying really hard, and that's a track that we got to go to quite a bit. I do like going there. Like I don't hate the track, but for whatever reason, we seem to struggle there a little bit. So that's definitely one that when the date rolls around, I'm like, oh boy, we got to figure something out here.
Yeah. I get the same way on iRacing.
Yeah,
it's tough there.
It's a tricky track. I mean, so a lot of it maybe has to do with me as a driver because it's not very conventional, the shape and everything. Which, I mean, that's good. I mean, it makes for good racing. It's definitely a driver's track. I just got to figure it out a little better, I guess.
All right, I'll ask the easy question then. What's your favorite track you've been to?
Oh, I got a couple. I mean, Albany Saratoga's like got a special place in my heart. It's right down the road from me. I race there weekly, so that's definitely one of my favorites. But all-time favorite track is probably Volusia. It's like Christmas when we get to go down there. So, and that's in a couple weeks, so I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. That's just one of those tracks. It's fast. You're on the gas, and for whatever reason, it kind of seems to suit me. We seem to run pretty decent there, so that always helps when you're picking out your favorites.
Absolutely.
Now you're also one that runs both, some Brett Deos shows, the super short track super series and the dirt car series. We asked Anthony Perego this a couple of weeks ago. What is the big difference between the two series? Does it feel, I mean, it's still dirt modified. It's still extra distance events, but is there like a different feel? Is the competition different? What is it between, driving the super dirt series and driving the short track super series?
I do feel like it's kind of a different feel between the two most of the time. I mean, it depends on the track and where you're at and everything, but for the most part, obviously the engine rules are a little different. For me, I only have big block engines, so if I go to an STSS race, I got my big block in, but the tires make a pretty big difference. The American racers are quite a bit different than the Hoosiers. But I feel like the STSS stuff, whether it's the draw, the competition, a mixture of all of it, the tires, everything else, I feel like you're always like on the wheel hard, and it's like you're in a scrum kind of thing. Like it's elbows up on the gas racing most of the time. And with the series, I feel like it's a little bit more like finesse and trying to get your car just right, tire game just right, drive perfect laps, lap after lap. I guess like the Super Dirt Car Series feels a little bit more like a chess game, and then the Short Track Super Series feels like an all-out brawl sometimes. But for the simplest way to put it, but I like running both. I mean, it's great that we have two really good high-end series that both put on a lot of good paying shows and go to good tracks. So we're very lucky to have that, and I think it's good to have some competition in the modified world between the two because they push each other to try to elevate the sport for all of us. So it's definitely a good thing.
So, I mean, as a driver, you do both. Obviously, Dirt Car does time trials, Short Track Super Series does draw. As a fan, I hate the time trials. As a driver, you like the time trials?
I like the time trials as a driver, personally, because I feel like if I'm going to, especially if we go somewhere 5 hours away or something, if I'm going to start in the back row of a heat race, I want it to be my own damn fault. You know what I mean? But
right.
I guess you could look at it the other way. You could draw good and be up front, but I don't know. I like to kind of create my own destiny, I guess. And, if you're going to start up front in the heat, you earned it. And if not, you got to work on your stuff and get better. But I do see both sides of it from a promoter standpoint, fan standpoint. I've talked to Brett about it a lot. And he mentioned one time, he was like, we did a time trial race at Georgetown and nobody showed up because you get a lot of cars that, knowing it's a draw race, they think, if I draw good, heat race good, I might have a shot at having a good night, or otherwise I'm not going to touch Shepard or Stu or whatever. So I get it. But especially as like a car owner and driver, I like the time trials. It just seems to clean up the racing a little bit. There's a little less carnage and everything else. But
right. And that's the thing that, fast cars start up front, where I could see that maybe keeping some cars away from a Super Dirt Series race or something like that. But like I said, as a fan, I like to see a little mix, like with Dirt Car, maybe mixing it up and let Stewie and Matt go back a little bit for a heat race or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't blame you one bit. As a fan, I'd probably, if I'm sitting in the stands, I probably want it to be a draw race. It's a little more exciting, but
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see both sides of it. And honestly, it's probably a good thing that we have one of each. We get to do a little bit of both.
So what's the Ging'a Ninja have planned for 2023? I see a race car in the back getting put together just over your shoulder there. And sounds like you got a lot going on this year.
Yeah, it'll be busy. So that car there, that's the one we're going to take down to Volusia. We're going to leave not this Friday, but next Friday. We're going to plan on doing a little bit of testing on our way down, and then we'll kick it off Wednesday there. But after that, it'll be we'll be following the full Super Dirt Car Series again, and then we'll be at Malta every single Friday night, and we'll be at Fonda on Saturday nights in the Eric Nelson owned 85 car, which I'm excited about. It's always a good time. I love running at Fonda, and I like working with those guys. They have a good team put together, and Eric's really putting a nice piece together this year. So I think we should be pretty competitive with that. And then other than that, that's what's set in stone for me. And then we'll probably bounce around and just hit some shows that make sense. I'm sure we'll hit a good amount of the STSS shows, especially the bigger paying ones. We'll probably do Port Royal and all the 200s at the end of the year. as long as we have a pretty clean year and get through it unscathed. But yeah, we got a lot of races lined up, and it should be pretty busy. I'm looking forward to it.
So, Jack, you're the best person to ask then this. The big announcement just a couple of weeks ago, Fonda Speedway going to be a part of NASCAR and the Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series. You know, excited about it? Different? Give us your thoughts about it.
I don't really have too many thoughts about it. I mean, I think it can't hurt. It's got to be a good thing. You know, I see that they're doing like a separate little point fund for that. So I think that'll only help. You know, kind of like that Hoosier deal that they do. They're going to do something like that. You know, maybe it'll bring a little more point fund money at the end of the year for us for the tracks, and maybe a little bit more exposure. So I don't think that couldn't really be a bad thing. I don't think too much is going to change as far as like the week to week stuff. But yeah, it's definitely exciting to have, you know, NASCAR affiliation with what we're doing over there.
Yeah.
So NASCAR race car driver Jack Lahner, how does that sound?
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, because when you get your when you file for your license, that's what it comes. You're a NASCAR racer now. You get your membership, right,
Yeah.
Andy? You know what
That's it. I got it in the mail the other day.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I have my actually have my NASCAR license. I'm approved to do like truck dirt races and
okay.
dirt races and stuff. So if that opportunity ever comes, but
very cool.
yeah.
Well, Jack, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for jumping on, spending a couple minutes with us. And
I just got one question.
Fire away, partner.
Yeah, somebody sent me. It says, Jack, are you full time at your business, JLR Technologies?
Oh, that's right.
And
I forgot to ask you.
How is your business?
Yeah, I'm time with that, and it's been good, really good. It's been super busy this off season, so it's kind of like progressed. Last year it was so busy right before the season kicked off. It got really busy when everyone was ordering stuff, getting ready for the year. But yeah, this off season it's been really busy, wide open every day, and I can't complain. I mean, it's good. It's what I love doing, and just gonna try to keep building it up. You know, I just purchased a shock dyno and got fully stocked on all the stuff to be able to do all that, and doing a lot of the body panel stuff, and probably be expanding a little bit. I just had a customer car in here. I put a full body on it, did all the shocks, did a full scale. So that thing rolled out of here ready to go hit the racetrack, and it's good. I mean, I like working with people in the racing industry. It's just another side of it that I enjoy doing, and you know, obviously it helps me get to the racetrack every week. So I'm definitely excited about it.
That's the biggest thing right there.
For all of those tuned in, Jack, and they need a body or they need some shocks worked on, how do they get a hold of you?
You can look us up on JLR Technologies on Facebook. My phone number is right on there. Or you can reach out to my personal page or racing page. That's usually the easiest form of communication. But yeah, get a hold of me. I'll get some pricing out to you and see what we can do.
There we go, partner. You could be as fast as that number 2 car.
That's the idea, right?
Yeah.
All right, Ninja. Well, we'll definitely be watching. Thank you again so much for joining us, and best of luck this year.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. Appreciate having me on.
Got any sponsors you want to shout out?
Yeah, absolutely. Want to thank, you know, the biggest one, probably Benson's Pet Center there, Frank and Ryan Kramer. I don't know if they're watching or see this. And then North Country Electrical, Matt Hillick, Stretches Lawn and Landscape, Club Wago guys, Madsen Overhead Doors, Kevlar Racing Engines, Fox Shock, Swift Springs. Yeah, everybody that's whether I might be forgetting you or not, but anybody that's a part of this team, I really appreciate everything that they do for me, and I have a good group of people in my corner, and that's what makes the whole deal work. So
absolutely
cool.
There we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can see him full time on the Super Dirt Series Trail and weekly at the Fonda Speedway and the Albany Saratoga Speedway. He is the Ging'a Ninja, Jack Lahner. Jack, take care.
Thanks.
Take care, bud. All right.
Tell you what, partner, that kid's going to do a lot of great things in the world of dirt modified racing. He got a great head on his shoulders. And I'll tell you the one important thing, he can talk.
Yeah.
He can talk. He can talk clear. He can pronunciate. I remember somebody making fun of Jeff Gordon years ago because he can talk and pronunciate. Well, Jack Lahner can do the same thing. So sponsors jump on with him. He's going to be, obviously he has a whole bunch of them. He rattled off how many there.
Yeah.
He's a great representative for companies. So, and interesting, he got approved for truck racing on dirt. J.R. Hefner did that a couple years. Of course, we know Stu's deal, but J.R. Hefner did that a couple years ago for a couple years. That you never know. He could be the next one to jump in a truck and go. I didn't even look at the schedule. It's not back at Eldora anymore, right? It's Knoxville or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
So who knows? Could be Jack Lahnert, the next big superstar.
That's right. Stewie always has an extra truck, I think, right? He lends it out sometimes, I see.
I'm sure, for the right price, of course.
Right?
Mr. Larson would let that get going.
Yeah, sure thing. Give her. I don't see Dave on there. I sent him the link. Do you have another way of?
Oh, let's see here. Hold on, flipping through. No, because they sent me everything was good. I'm one of my first questions is going to be who's his publicist, because that's who I've been dealing with. Whoever it is, sweetheart. Said. He might be a little technology.
Yeah.
I don't want to say illiterate, but technology.
And you said his mail was Y mail, not Gmail.
Yeah, I don't know what Y mail is. Let's see. And whoever was responding back to me said he was going to have one of the kids kind of help him do this. So this is great live radio, folks, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is what happens when you do live.
That's it. When it's live, baby.
That's it.
Let's see.
George.
Got that. Yes, got that. Yeah. I don't want to say his email address out loud on the air here, but
yeah, I got it. I sent it.
Yeah, it's Y because I got it twice here, and it's Ymail. I've never heard of Ymail.
Me neither.
And yeah, all was good, set. All right. Well, we'll kind of give Dave a couple minutes. Great story, honestly. As we said, kind of 2 decades away, not the 1 decade that I was kind of thinking. It was kind of, you always knew the name, you always knew the guy, and he was always there. And then he wasn't, and now he's back, and it's like he's never been gone, kind of coming back, but it's been like 20 years since. Oh, we just got a message. Give us a minute. He's figuring it out.
Okay.
Right, so we'll have Dave Camara
but
here
you're
in a
right.
second.
I didn't realize it's been 20 years either. I mean, wow.
Yeah, he was always one of the top guns. He was always, you always saw the Camara Slate 26.
Oh, yeah.
He was a self-campaigner, and really, towards the end of his career was the biggest thorn in Jack Johnson's side up at Fonda. And honestly, while we're waiting for Dave to get on, I got a great story, a quick story, personal story here. Growing up, I want to say it was like 97, 98, somewhere around there. Me and my grandfather, we talked about going to Fonda for years and years and years. Grew up going to Middletown. We'd make the occasional trip up to Lebanon Valley, but we always said, man, we're going to go to Fonda one week. One week we're going to go to Fonda. We'll not go to Middletown, and we'll go check out this the Track of Champions, right? So we finally can we do Zoom instead? I don't think so. Yeah, no, this is a StreamYard broadcast. If you guys are listening, the Dave Camara guys.
All they have to do is click on the link that I sent them. It's real. It's somebody's listening because they're responding to us. So again, we'll give Dave a couple minutes here to figure it out. And so we finally made the decision. We're going, right. We're going to go to Fonda and go check it out. See this new racetrack that neither of us have gone to. And I was maybe 14, 15, maybe. I wasn't old enough to drive yet. We get going up there, we get kind of to Albany, and it starts pouring, like pouring.
and it's raining all the way across 90, right? And we keep calling the racetrack. Nobody's answering. And we're thinking we're going to get all the way up there and we're going to turn around and come home. It's going to rain out. Because, I mean, it was pouring, cats and dogs the whole way up there. We pull into, so for those who don't know, Fonda is like literally off the thruway.
Yeah.
Like you get off the exit, make a right and pull into the parking lot, like off the thruway. So I remember us coming to the exit and looking out and looking at the racetrack, and there's race cars in the racetrack. It stopped raining. It was still like sprinkle-ish kind of rain, but it like stopped raining. And I look out and there's cars packing the racetrack. Man, my face lit up. I was so freaking excited. Even if they didn't get the race, I was going to see race cars on the racetrack, right? So we get there, go in, find our seats, old wooden grandstand, the fair grandstands there. And they ended up racing that night. And it was still, to this day, one of the best dirt modified races I have ever seen, because I watched Jack Johnson and Dave Camara come through the field. Both of them get up to the front and then fight it out with each other. And Jack got Dave maybe with like 3-4 laps to go, made this move on the inside of turn 1 and just got position on him. And they raced side by side all the way down the backstretch. And the backstretch is bowed. It's like, it's not straight. And they were just wheel to wheel together. And Jack got him going into 3 and pulled away. And I saw Jack Johnson win a race at the Fonda Speedway, battling it out tooth and nail with Dave Camara. And I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And so I went down to the souvenir stand, and it was this guy that made the paper race cars. They were like cardboard that you'd see him at like Super Dirt Week all the time. Right. And I bought a Jack Johnson, Brett Hearn, and Dave Camara car. And I still have them somewhere. They're probably where I probably won't ever get them again, but they're still in existence, we'll say. But that was one of the coolest things. When I reached out to, first when I heard Dave was coming back, it was pretty cool to just see that period. Sorry, I was trying to read and talk at the same time. And it reminded me of that story. And then we were going to bring him on. Let's see. Computer won't allow him to join. Okay. They're trying.
I don't know if they have an Apple computer, they have to put it in their browser.
Okay.
If they're watching.
I see the bubble. It's a MacBook.
Yeah. Okay. So they got to copy that and put it into the browser.
Okay.
Hopefully if they're listening.
They're listening. I'm getting text updates here.
Yeah.
Again, live TV, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, the Apple is the only one that gives us an issue.
Okay, so we got that.
But hell, anytime you get to see Jack Johnson win a race, that's always awesome.
Well, that's true. That is true.
He was always one of my favorites.
He was in the Beau Bars 12B at the time. That red and blue car that what was it? Alan, I think, drove for him for a while. A bunch of guys did, but it was Jack's turn in that car, and I remember I think it was a yellow car, maybe that Dave had, like the yellow and red Camara Slate 26, and
yep.
They sliced through the field and went through. I mean, they started like 14th, 15th, all in the back, and both of them sliced through the field, and they both got to the front, and then they battled each other. And it's that race. I compare it to my one and only time I ever went to Williams Grove to watch a sprint car race. And I watched Fred Raymer and Lance Deweese basically do the same thing. Start in the back, slice their way all the way up. And I watched Fast Freddy get Lance Deweese with 2 to go. And it was like a carbon copy of the race I saw at Fonda, which was pretty cool. Tried to, and I'm not going to say it's a done, it's a dead deal yet, but trying to get a deal to go race there a little bit at Fonda. We're working on things. So that would be pretty cool. Never raced there. It's a cool shop.
That's why I said that's one place that I wanted to try out. That was on the bucket list.
Still on mine, and since I haven't kicked the bucket yet, we're gonna We're going to try. You know, we got, like I said, got some things cooking, and hopeful. Got so partner, tell us a little bit. You got a lot going on this year, racing wise. What do you got cooking?
Well, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go race. My son's gonna try his hand at street stock racing. He hasn't raced. Started in go karts. Tried the slingshots. So we're gonna try that, and my daughter with the champ karts. So we'll be a little bit busy this year.
That's awesome. Let's see. I'm kind of flipping through all our comments. First, thank you everybody for tuning in.
And sticking with us right now.
It's yeah, that's well, that too, for sure. But you know, some great fans that we've been picking up here the last couple weeks, kind of with the restart of the show, and appreciate everybody reaching out and wishing us well. And you know, I got my my little cup of coffee here so I don't choke while doing a podcast, which somebody kind of suggested to me also this week. But
okay, I was wondering who that was directed at, me or you.
So did I, but that's all right. Just to be safe, I'm.
So that was definitely you, and not
I'm
me.
good.
Cause,
yeah, that was me.
Okay, because
that was me.
Because you might be a little nicer than me.
Yeah.
But okay, we'll leave that for another day.
Yeah. Hey, listen, he's a good guy too, and everything was taken wrong. It was a joke. That's all right. Josh Allen's out there. Josh, we got to get you on the show, buddy. Let's connect. This young kid going to do a lot of great things in dirt modified racing. Won a lot of sportsman races already, and I think is going down to Florida as well, if I saw the press release correct. So Josh, reach out to me. Let's do it.
Good kid, good family right there.
That's it. Came from Slingshots.
Yeah.
Up from Slingshots. Dad had a lot to do with the Oakland Valley Raceway Park, the dirt track of it, which is kind of getting going again from what I heard. I know the road racing stuff is still going, but they kind of did some Slingshot stuff at the end of the year.
Yeah, they had like a little series thing at the end. I think it was 3 or 4 races that they did.
Yeah, I've reached out to those people. They haven't reached back out, but love to talk to them a little bit about, you know, what they got going on and stuff. And, you know.
Well, I'm sure we can get Tim on if that's what you want to do.
Well, you know, see what's going on. You know, I always kind of dip my toe in the promoting waters a little bit. So speaking of which, while we have time, couple quick things. You know, listen, I got a lot of we're kind of doing the end of the show in the middle of the show here.
That's all right.
First, big congratulations. Great friend of the show. Going to have him on the show here in a couple weeks as well. Peter Cracker Reynolds had a great show, great turnout at the Autobahn Raceway in the Palisades Mall. Raised a lot of money for the Penguin Plunge. Over $13,000 was raised for in that go-kart race. I thought the funniest thing was Brett Hearn had to race a number 27 car, which was funny in itself. But a lot of great drivers from the Orange County Fair Speedway went out and supported it. I think I did shame Bobby Slate into racing in it because I think he won a heat race. I didn't know if he knew he was going, but he ended up going and finished won a heat race. And Tyler Romer finished on the podium, which I thought was cool. So T-Money, I think they call him, which you know, one of I think a self-appointed nickname, but that's all right. But I love Tyler. I'm kidding. I love you. One of the best freaking car salesmen out there on the racetrack for sure. And there's plenty of them in this business. So awesome job, Crackers. Again, thrilled. Over $13,000. Wish I could have made it. Had to go coach my modified basketball team, which we won, by the way. Thank you. Which was awesome. We don't seem to do that very often this year. And you know what, real quick, speaking about promoting, kind of my shameless plug, if you come this Saturday at the S&S Speedway, we have, we call it the thaw before the meltdown. It's going to be absolutely freezing outside, but we'll thaw some things out inside, racing some go-karts, as it's kind of a qualifier race for a big race we're going to do in March, excuse me. March 4th is our big race that we call the Meltdown. So the winner of this race on Saturday is going to get a guaranteed starting spot in the A main. The A main in the March race is going to pay $600 to win. It's the biggest thing that I've ever put up for SNS Speedways. And, I'm kind of kicking around the idea it might be the last one I do. There's, other circumstances and stuff that are going around that this could be the last SNS Speedway race that I promote, kind of breaking news out here. So I want to go out with a bang. $600 to win, $400 for second, $300 for third. It's going to pay all the way down through the B main and, pay out a lot of money in March. And the winner that wins on Saturday will be a guaranteed starter into the A main. So I like to say, the SNS Speedway races, to get into the A main, it's almost as hard as getting in the Chili Bowl A main because there's a lot of drivers for very few spots. It's kind of like that. So looking forward to this Saturday. There's spots still open if anybody wants to race in it. It's still got a handful open. It's $50 entry fee. Get some hot laps, get a heat race, get a preliminary feature. And if you win your preliminary feature, you go on to the A main. You win the A main. Like I said, you're guaranteed to get a paycheck in the race in March if you come participate in it. So got a lot of cool drivers. I know Gary Edwards III is in it. Trying to think. Jason Little, who everybody knows Jason from around all the racetracks up here.
That's the ringer right there.
He is the ringer. He is the Brett Hearn of SNS Speedways.
He really is too.
And there's a lot of great young guns that do this go-kart thing and are really, really good. So it'll be fun to watch them race this weekend. And again, if you're free, come on out. It starts at sign-ins at 8:30 in the morning. We're going to start racing at 9, and we're going to run that thing right off and get everybody out in time to enjoy the afternoon and get them back before the clash on TV later that afternoon. So I got a text, and you're looking like you got something.
Yeah, he's in the back.
All right. We can stop rambling on.
Yeah. And again, this is live, so we're hoping he's got good internet, and he's got good microphone that works. So here we go.
Well, the Flash is in the house.
Hi, guys.
All right. Dave Camara, ladies and gentlemen, the Poltely Flash finally joining us now. I'm curious, who is your publicist? Who's your PR person?
Wow. I'm not a computer person by any stretch.
So
we set this all up on Zoom the other night. Of course, this isn't on Zoom, so
that's what I said. It's like Zoom. It's not exactly like Zoom, but
yeah.
So my first question was going to be, well, where the heck have you been? And I guess I could ask it two ways now. 2 decades out of the race car, and then we didn't know where the heck you were here for the last 20 minutes. But well, I guess welcome back.
Thank you. The last 20 minutes, I've been sweating bullets. So,
you have. You should hear how we were rambling on here.
Yeah, he's rambling on.
I was doing some rambling on my own, believe me. You can ask Mimi, because she heard it all. She's explaining to me what to do, and it's just not working.
So I guess
you're here now.
That's it.
That's all that matters, I guess.
All right, Dave. So we'll go back to the original question. Yep. Where you been?
We got done obviously back 2010, and been raising kids. My kids were all younger then, so went through a lot of sport and events and just doing all the things you do with your kids. My oldest is 26, be 27 now, and my youngest be 16 in the spring. So they're all getting older and they're kind of doing their own thing. So it's time for me to go back and do my own thing.
And we talked about it earlier. Once you get going in this sport, it kind of never leaves you. What was finally the bug that bit you the most to say? Because I remember seeing the post put out, "Hey, Dave's looking for a ride."
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh wow, Dave Camara's coming back." So how did the bug bite you that hard to say, "All right, we're going back and doing this"?
Well, I actually went back to the track for the first time in quite a few years. The last time I'd been was one of the Jack Johnson races that they had. I haven't been back since, because it's, if you're an alcoholic, you don't go hang out at the bar. That's just the way it is. So, you know, Mimi Lazaro and I connected last spring, and obviously she has the bug worse than anybody. So
Yep.
we started going to Fonda. We went to Utica a bunch of times, went to Fonda, went to Malta a couple times. Got to know everybody at Fonda, as far as got to know Brett and everybody that puts the shows on, and just was enjoying the other side of it. And I don't know, before 3/4 of the way through the season, I had 2 different people offer me a ride. And I guess then I'm thinking, wow, they want this old guy to drive. So, so we figured we'd give it a whirl.
Well, listen, I love to hear that now Mimi has figured out how to do this, because we're going to get her on the show in a couple of weeks. She got a great book coming out in a little while that we're going to talk about for sure.
Truthfully, I had texted her or said to her, "You better just go on for me and just get it over with." I didn't know if it was going to happen.
See, Andy, his point was great with the alcohol. Like I said, this thing sucks you back in. So how do you not allow it to do that? And that's a great point. You almost got to stay away from the whole thing in general, because you can't just go to the racetrack and not want to be to do it. It's so hard, and that's a great point. We just talked about that too.
Yeah, it was. The kids have asked me a few times. We should go here, we should go there, and I kind of just changed the subject. And right. we went to Volusia a few years ago. We went down and hung out with Shepard and his trailer and a few of the guys that we know, and it was fun. But it was just a 2 or 3 night deal, and it was in and out, and we were gone. But after being there all summer, it's just different. It gets the blood going again.
Yep, absolutely.
So I was going to ask, Dave, it's not like you totally went away, because we would see Camara slate on a lot of race cars in the area.
Mm-hmm. We've always enjoyed helping a lot of different people. We enjoy helping Matt Shepard. We have a lot of guys at Devil's Bowl that we help out. Mostly friends, people that we've known for years. Matt helped me out years ago when he drove for Randy Ross and all that. So it's kind of my brother Danny works with him, and so we've had a close connection with him, and just we enjoy helping him.
Yeah, I got a good fan question here, Andy. It's a good
I just
point
saw it. Yep.
Since he's been out for a while. Dave, if you can read it, it says,
yep.
How do you think you're going to adapt to the new / old style suspension of the cars now compared to the cars you previously ran?
Put it this way, I haven't slept for the last 3 weeks thinking about it. It's a lot different, obviously. There's no comparison. Talking to a lot of the guys that were my era this summer, they're all struggling with it. And I mean, there's no doubt I'm going to struggle with it at first. I'm just hoping I'm really hoping that I've been away long enough, so I've kind of forgotten some of the old stuff, that I can adapt to some of the newer stuff better. Wes has a really good program. And they, they won a feature at Fonda last year. So I kind of feel like they have a good program, and it's going to be a struggle, but we're going to just get out there, and we're going to rent Fonda for a whole day if we have to, and just go and turn some laps, and just try to acclimate ourselves the best.
Now, you kind of touched on a perfect segue I wanted to ask you. As we saw that first text, hey, Dave Camara is looking for a ride. It wasn't too long after that you were tabbed to drive the Moody Mile Motorsports 24 cars. So how did that all come about? And, you kind of touched on already how you're looking the season to go, but tell us, how you and Wes connected, and we'll go from there.
It's kind of a weird deal, because Wes has been around racing, I think he said 1960. And I knew his brother Sonny when Buzzy Ruderman drove for him years ago at Can-Am. So I knew Sonny, but I've never met Wes. In all the years of him racing and me racing, just never met him. And Mimi's good friends with him, and she had called and talked to him, and then Wes said, "Hey, give me a call." So she kind of set the whole deal up, and I just followed through. So truthfully, I think she did all the hard work. I did the easy work. So.
Well, you got the hard work coming up, my friend. Is
Yeah.
Brett Deo got a full schedule. That's your plan, Fonda, and I saw maybe a little Utica Rome as well.
Well, we want to do a few of the North Series races. We might end up at Utica, but it really isn't in the plan. The plan is just to do Fonda on Saturdays and then do, most of the North Series if we can.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I saw. Okay.
Yep.
Speaking of that, just another fan question. Since it says a Vermont native, are you planning on hitting Devil's Bowl for any of the modified shows, especially Father's Day weekend, short track Super Series race?
That's definitely one that we're going to hit. It's kind of one that I'm looking forward to. I mean, I'm looking forward to going to Fonda. That's kind of been my home for years, and I just love the place. It's my favorite racetrack. It has been for a long time. But Devil's Bowl is right in my backyard. All my kids have gone to school with some of the kids that race there now.
Right.
So it's going to be fun to go back there and see a lot of people. That place has changed a lot over the years, so that's going to be a complete learning thing as well. The track is totally different.
Yeah. And the second part of that question was, are you thinking about or looking forward farther ahead, maybe for a 602 ride for the Vermont 200 for the St. Devil's Bowl, if that's something in your cards?
Right now, I just really want to get in. I'm just itching. I want to get in the car and make sure I pull out of the pit road and go the right way and can still go around in a circle. So for right now, that's really the game plan. Haven't really talked to Wes about anything other than a few of the short track Super Series races. It'd be nice to maybe do one of the big block races at Devil's Bowl. But and hey, who knows? If a ride comes up for the 602s, I wouldn't be opposed to turning anything down at this point.
Now,
that's all I got, Andy.
All right, partner. Dave, you touched upon the big return to Fonda. It really was kind of your home, and I kind of joked you were Jack Johnson's biggest thorn in his side later in his career up there, and talked about watching you race him in one hell of a feature event. What do you think? The emotions from being away for 2 decades now of when you do strap into that car and you put the car into high gear for the first time back at Fonda. What do you think that's going to be like?
Well, hopefully I don't say, what did I get myself into? No, it's going to be fun. Wes and I have talked about it. I just really want to go out there and turn some laps and have some fun. And I know it's going to be a challenge. It was a challenge the first 20 years that I did it. So I'm sure the next 3 or 4 or 10, whichever I do, is going to be a challenge. That's just the way it is. But it's a bittersweet place, just going back there. It's just a special place. Had a lot of good races with Jack. Obviously, he's my mentor, and just going there and being back there is it's going to be pretty cool.
And that kind of leads into my next question is, you and Jack were such fierce competitors on the racetrack, but it seemed like anytime you would look in the pit area, you and him were conversating, whether it's at Fonda or a Super Dirt Series event. You guys had a pretty special rivalry, I guess we'll say. Take us through that. Take us through what that meant to you.
I guess first and foremost, Jack obviously was my hero growing up. And he, Jack was my hero up until the day he quit and I quit. That's just the way it is. But something that was different for Jack and I guess, than a lot of people didn't have is Jack and I were great friends. He was more than a friend. He was a role model. He was like a second dad to me. He taught me a lot of life lessons that I still use today, whether I'm coaching youth sports or hanging around kids. A lot of the things that he taught me, I still use. But on the racetrack, Jack, obviously we all know that he was as fierce as anybody. And it was, I guess early in my career, it was like, wow, I can't believe I'm racing Jack. Towards the later years, it was fun only because of the fact that you could drive the wheels off that thing and he was driving the wheels off that thing. And we never worried about bumping each other. And if we did bump each other, we'd go in the pits and laugh about it. And there was nothing, it was just fun. It was just total respect for the guy, but man, you better be up on the wheel if you want to beat him.
Oh yeah.
Well, with a track that you go to by the name of Track of Champions, where you had, Lou Lazzaro and Dave Lape and Jack Johnson, Dave Camara is on that list. When you look at that list of a Track of Champions and you see your name, that has to be a pretty special feeling. And now going back and kind of getting back into it and maybe going after another one.
Mm-hmm. It is, I guess when I was younger and I was driving in the thick of things, you don't really think about things. But now that I've had time to step away, people talk to you, and it's pretty remarkable. I had a gentleman tell me about 6 months ago, he had been going to Fonda for years. This guy was probably close to 80 years old, and he come up one day at Stewart's, and he said, he put his arm around me and he says, I never imagined a young man from Fairhaven or Pontley was going to be a track champion at Fonda. And it just, when you hear somebody you respect, it's just pretty cool, but hey, going back, I'm just going to be another one of the knuckleheads putting a helmet on, and you got to go out there and get it done. So
it's stiff competition still today at Fonda.
Yeah, it's always been. And, I think the toughest part is going to be for me is walking through the pit area. There's probably like 5 people that I know. So it's going to be like, I know you had Jack on earlier. I don't think I've ever met him, and he drives the wheels off that thing. But it's tough when you don't know the guys that you're racing with. It's a learning curve. So that's going to be a challenge for me as well. Well, it's something we're looking forward to. Some of these young guys, I'm telling you, man, they're fast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they are fast. They got one speed, and that's go.
That's it. Well, you got, you think when you're young, I say you're young and dumb. You just got, you said, one speed. Your kahunas are this big, and whatever happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your brain is this big.
Right. When you get a little older, things are different. And with me, it's like, when you get older, you wreck that thing. It's going to take longer to heal. There's different things that run through your mind,
Absolutely. I one time at Fonda, I don't remember who it was, but I passed him on the outside of turn 4. We were coming through the field, and I just had to do it. And Jack said to me after the race, he says, you haven't hit that wall hard enough yet, have you? And I said, what do you mean? He said, to pass that guy in the outside of turn 4, bud, that's just not smart. Well, what are you going to do? I mean, and I was young. So, that's just part of what you do as a youngster. And that's, that's why these younger guys, they're fast.
Oh, yeah.
You take the Yankowski kid. We watched him a lot at Utica, and I mean, they're fast. They're fast. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, and like you said, they put them cars in places that they should never even be. It's like, oh man, there's times you go to a racetrack and I just cringe, like, oh, he ain't making it out of this one, and they do, and they'll do it again on the next lap.
Yeah. But when you're young, that's just that's the way it works.
Absolutely. Now listen, when I was talking about gray beards with Jack Lahnert, I didn't want to, no disrespect or anything.
Yeah, it's all good.
Just making sure. Just making sure.
At least I can grow hair on my face.
Well, that's true. That's true. Now, Dave, actually, people, when we said you were coming on the show, I got a lot of stuff in my inbox that people wanted to have me ask you about Syracuse. You're one of the only drivers we really had on lately that really had any experience at the mile, and just how different was it to really compete there, really do well there? Do you miss it? Do you wish it was still around? I know you've kind of been away for a long time, but stuff like that. Tell us your thoughts about the Moody Mile. Well,
Oswego's great. I've watched it, but it's not Syracuse. There's a difference there. There's Oswego and there's Super Dirt Week at Syracuse. Syracuse was just an animal of its own. It was a total different animal. You had to have total respect for it, otherwise it'd bite you. You had to be smart about everything. The competition there between, Jack and Billy and Brett and Jimmy Horton and, the Johnson brothers, just everybody that went there was stellar. Tobias, just everybody. There was no, if you qualified in 40 cars, you were in some of the best 40 drivers in the country. It's just the way it was. And Syracuse was a very bittersweet place for me. I do miss it. it's a total mental game out there. You know, you got to be, you really need to get comfortable in the car before you can go fast. And sometimes that's tough. Sometimes it's tough out there. But
now your PR person just texted me, and I'm assuming Mimi wanted to ask you a question about winning at the mile, which just so happened while we were talking about it. Also now driving for Wes Moody, who's the first guy to go 100 miles an hour at the mile. So you have a lot of mile connections still.
It is pretty cool. And I learned that this summer. I never knew why they called it the Moody Mile. I just figured it was because it was Moody is some old hag.
That's what I always thought. That's you hear Gary Montgomery say the Moody Mile, and Doug Logan say it. It was just because you didn't know what track conditions you were getting. It was whatever mood she was in.
Absolutely. It was different every time. It was different every heat race. It was different every time you went out there. It was different. So it's pretty cool coming from that era to race at Syracuse and be racing for Wes. And the place is named after him. I mean, that's a pretty neat deal in itself. Winning there, we won the USNA race there. It was there's nothing like it. It just was a great accomplishment because, like I said, it's been a bittersweet place. We've had some good runs there, but boy, we have wrecked some very nice cars there. Blown some very good engines. It's just, that's part of Syracuse.
How much do the cinders suck? Because my one start at Syracuse, the cinders suck.
Yeah, they're the first 2 days of practice is terrible because you're riding on marbles, and that's all there is. It literally, your body gets beat up by them, your paint job, everything it gets tormented by it, and they're awful. They're awful. But once you get them blown off, then you're down to asphalt basically.
Right.
But then you can race. The tough part for being a young guy there is that when you go out and practice all week, you're on the cinders. But when you go to time trial or heat race, it's on a totally different racetrack. So you really got to be patient and let the track clean up. I think it was either Joe Plazak or it was Tobias years ago had said that if there was a guardrail all the way around the inside to keep people off the infield, to keep the cinders off the track, you would see a lot better racing. Because the track would get dirty.
That's interesting because we're going to have Joe on the show here in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to have to file that one away and ask him about it. You touched on.
I never been. I went to Syracuse one time, unfortunately, and it was the last year of it because the racing there just never enticed me. You know what I mean? I always thought it wasn't good. But man, when I went there, the atmosphere was like second to none. I was absolutely blown away, and I left there with the regret of not going more. You know what I mean? It's a wild time. The atmosphere is unbelievable.
It's the nostalgia of Super Dirt Week, Syracuse. It's like the Daytona 500. Daytona usually doesn't produce very good racing. I mean, face it, it doesn't. But to go there, to go there as a fan, I've been there to watch the race 2 or 3 times, and you get chills when they're coming down the front stretch going for the green. Hey, it's a Daytona 500. And it was the same thing as Syracuse. It was, as a driver, you kind of didn't look forward to it because you kind of knew, it's just, there's good and bad. But, the atmosphere there is just, there's nothing like it.
It's unbelievable.
It's pretty wild. Yep.
So, Dave, we'll wrap up with this question, kind of, an old dog and new trick kind of thing at the Fonda Speedway this year is NASCAR. Your thoughts on it? What do you think about it? And do you think, NASCAR and dirt, you really didn't go together the last handful of years until you start seeing the cup cars and the trucks get there. Now it's kind of becoming a big thing, and Brett Deo's kind of leading the charge here in the Northeast. So give us the driver's perspective on it.
Well, I can tell you this, that Brett brings a lot to the table for a driver. Years ago, we were racing for a lot less money. And he has put a lot of money out there for these guys. For Matt Shepard to win the amount of money he won last year, it's pretty incredible. I mean, no one will probably ever beat that again, but at least that it's there. The money's there. I mean, how many times do you go for a short track and race for $53,000? And he's doing a phenomenal job. And the NASCAR piece, I think, is only going to be better. Actually, I talked to Brett a few days ago about the NASCAR piece. You know, he says they have great insurance. Their point fund program is great. I've known Craig Von Dorn for years, and he's won it quite a few times being at Grandview. And, you know, at the end of the year, they can be racing for some serious amount of money on top of what the track pays.
Absolutely.
So I see it as it's only going to make things better. You take a guy like Shepard, and if you have to run 18 races, and you know, with Matt, you'd have 17 wins in 1 second. It would be his 18 races, but it just gives him a chance to go race for more money. And you know, I just feel like what Brett's doing is he's giving back to the drivers and the owners to give them a chance to race for the money they should be racing for, so to speak.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah,
well, Dave,
you figure that up. That like if you win the national, you know what I mean, like the series and then the track champ, you're right, man. The money is really big, and someone like Matt Shepard can almost, you know, double what he made last year if he got it all lined right, you know.
Absolutely, you know, and it did for him last year, and who knows, maybe he'll do it again this year. Maybe, you don't know, but at least I think as a driver and an owner, you have it in the back of your head that there's a big pot of gold here, and someone is able to get it.
That's right.
You know, because hey, face it, the biggest shock for me was the cost of stuff today versus what it was. You know, we used to put a car together for around 20, maybe even a little less. Now they're over 50.
Let's say you're not touching that now.
I'm just like, holy moly, you know, in motors, it's crazy. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, these guys deserve, with the money they're spending, they deserve to be racing for more, but no one else has brought it to the table besides Brett. So
that's right. Yeah, I always said that too. I mean, the purses are almost what they were back in the 80s. You know what I mean? 90s, the purses are low, and that's why you got to, you know, Brett is bringing it, and the drivers respect him for that, and it shows at his races.
Yeah, for sure. And they put on great races. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I heard you guys talking to Jack earlier about the draws versus the time trials. You know, I mean, people want to sit in stands and see racing. Right. That's just what they want to see. They, you know, and listen, I've time trialed a lot over the years, but you know, I think if I was a promoter, that I would make a rule that anybody in the top 5 in the series points doesn't start better than 6th. Start them in the back to put a show on. Absolutely. You know, as a promoter, that's what you want to see.
Right.
So because that's what the fans want to see.
I was going to say the fans are the ones that get annoyed with that stuff, you know?
Sure. And, you know, hey, face it. I don't care what sport you're in. Without the fans, you don't have a lot.
That's right.
You know, they're a huge piece of this. So, you know, he puts a lot of racing out there, and I just think it's great. And truthfully, the other series are going to have to catch up.
Right.
They're going to have to.
Well, Dave, there's a lot of fans that are really excited that you're back. We're excited to watch you this year. Glad you got the internet figured out. So thank you, Mimi. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be watching you. Best of luck this year in the Moody Mile car.
We thank you guys, and you know, we hope to have a lot of fun. That's the game plan, and you know, can't wait to see all the people that we've missed over the years at the track.
And making a whole lot, and meeting a whole lot more, right? The whole 4 that you know, you got a lot of catching up to do.
Oh, I got a lot of catching up to
do. Yeah. All right, Dave. Best of luck. Thank you again.
Okay, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.
There he is, the Poltley Flash, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Camara coming back to the Fonda Speedway. And listen, as a gray beard, and Dave, I say that lovingly, you know, had a lot of great perspective on a lot of different topics. And that's what you get really with these veterans like Dave Camara.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I'm really glad that he got it worked out to be able to come on, because that a lot of people were tuning in to watch that.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of big things happening at Fonda and Utica Rome with this NASCAR thing. And I'm glad we got a driver that really, you know, has done his homework on it. Cause I kind of said it, last week, 2 weeks ago, not just the insurance thing, which listen,
that's
things can happen at the racetrack. It's great to, you know, have that extra peace of mind that you have some insurance to back you if something does go wrong. but he touched on the money. I told everybody about talking to Doug Hoffman that his NASCAR payment was bigger than his track championships and all the money his purse money for the year. So Dave's not kidding when there's a big chunk of money waiting for these guys, and Brett Deyo kind of bringing it to the forefront. I wanted to talk to him, and we're going to have to get him back on the show at some point. He touched on the USNA, and remember he's
still there if you want to ask him.
Well, we're already behind right now. It's a reason to bring him back, right? So, the split of dirt, not dirt car, but dirt, Glenn Donnelly dirt, and the USNA, and Dave being one of the winners of one of those, I dare say outlaw type shows.
And not many people know about that series either.
Yeah, they kind of forgot. It's like that forgotten thing.
It was kind of, but it was kind of like a one and done deal too, though, really, because it didn't last long. Yeah,
they raced 2 or 3, and then canceled a whole bunch of them. Fonda was one that I can remember was an outlaw track, and then Syracuse, and that was the big thing. They ran like 2-ish races at Syracuse. And Dave being one of the winners there. So
what was, I'm not real familiar with it. It was a while ago.
So was
it like their thing to take on Super Dirt Series?
Yeah. So it was, for lack of a better explanation, it was kind of like Brett Deyo,
right.
Coming in and kind of challenging dirt car, except it just didn't work. I think it was called Boundless, which spun, it could be wrong. I know Boundless was something way back then, but there was a race at Albany, Saratoga. Thank you, Jeremy. That was the other one I was trying to think of. And Devil's Bowl. They had those, and they had some races at Syracuse, and there was some scuttlebutt at one time that Middletown was going to do. That was one of the rumors that Eastern States was going to be a USNA race because they were, they had some friction with dirt at the time. It never happened, and it ended up Eastern States was kind of a solo show there for a couple of years, which I guess technically still is. It's not a series race anymore. So, but that was cool that, kind of a blast from the past. And I had a bunch of people ask me about Syracuse. Listen, I love Syracuse. I had one racing experience at Syracuse. We made it through hot laps, blew the motor, and I almost wrecked the car like 3 times. Because of the damn cinders on the racetrack, but it was fast, and so cool. And I miss it. I know it was different. It was a fuel mileage race. It was a strategy race. It was different, but that's what I thought made it cool. That you didn't know who was going to run out of gas. You didn't know, what was going to happen. It kept you, was there a lot of side by side passing this, swapping to the lead and stuff? No, but it didn't make it a bad race either. I don't think it just made it different. We only had to do it once a year. And it was, you said it, the atmosphere was unbelievable.
That's what struck me was the atmosphere. And that year there, Stewie actually wound up winning. And he passed on the outside at Syracuse, which absolutely blew my mind that somebody would do that and to make it work and then win the Syracuse. I was like, wow, this place ain't all that bad after all.
No, listen, I loved it. I remember, again, kind of my grandfather's stories here. I remember the first time we went to Syracuse and just walking up the stairs to go into the grandstands and just seeing this massive freaking racetrack, that you're used to these, half miles and quarter miles, and just how big the place was. And I thought the coolest thing was like seeing a driver like Billy Pouch for the first time. That, drivers I've never seen. I've watched, Rush Hour on Dirt. I watched, all the years that they covered it, and then I got to go see it. And, the one time I got to run the Dave Reynolds car there, was just awesome. And I miss it. I don't want to get into politics, or anything like that, but I think it was a travesty that we lost the mile, how and for what, and this. And listen, I'm sure there's drivers are glad it's gone too.
Yeah, that's what I say. As a driver's point, there's goods and bads to it as well, because now you could take your regular Saturday night car and go to Oswego and race. Compared to Syracuse, you had to get a whole different body. You know what I mean? It was all different.
I get that. I understand it. And listen, you didn't race for a ton of money. I mean, you're racing for the same amount of money at Oswego that you've been at Super Dirt Week. So I understand that. It was the atmosphere. It was this is something big. And I haven't been to Oswego yet. I don't know what that's all about. So I don't know if it's the same from those who I've talked to. They know it's a big race, but it's not Syracuse. It's not Super Dirt Week.
Nothing will ever be Syracuse. That's just it.
That's true. Robert, I have the same thing. If you go on YouTube, I uploaded a lot of the rush hour stuff on YouTube for you guys looking for it. Cause I loved it. Listen, that was my Thursday Night Thunder, cause it was on Sports Channel, the Buffalo sports affiliate. And Doug Logan, Gary Montgomery, watching them and seeing all these new tracks for the first time when I was, 12, 13, 14 years old, and saying, man, I want to go be a Super Dirt Series driver. I didn't want to be a NASCAR driver. I didn't want to go to the Cup Series. I wanted to go race on the Super Dirt Series. And I got to watch drivers like, Steve Payne and Joe Plazik and Dave Camara. I remember seeing that Camara slate car a lot on TV. And, guys like Jack Johnson and Jimmy Horton and those guys. So, we have that kind of today with Flo, which is awesome. I think, that was the biggest deal with Glenn Donnelly back then, was the reach that Glenn Donnelly did back in the early 90s, mid 90s, of bringing, dirt modified racing television sets. It's just, we'll say from when Dave Camara first quit 20 years ago, it's a totally different thing. Now these days you can find dirt modified. Listen, I could watch 5 weekly racetracks every week if I wanted to at Flow. So.
Oh yeah. And for a cheap price too, $150.
I can't
get it all, man. That's a deal.
Can't
there's times I'll be at one racetrack watching another one on my phone.
Yeah. Yep. Done the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, partner, as the old saying says, out of beer, out of here. We went over an hour again, but
we overstepped our boundaries.
I partly blame Dave Camara for that, but
that's all right.
That's all right. We got to talk a lot of great racing. Thank
you
so much, Jack Lahnert and Dave Camara, for coming out, and special shout out Mimi Lazaro for getting Dave to figure out how to get on. So. Thank you, Mimi. And we'll reach out. We got to get you on soon when the book comes out too. She got a lot of great things going on. And I'll tell you what, a historian of Fonda Speedway, Mimi Lazaro, for sure. And we'll talk to her as we get closer to race season. A lot of guys are going down to Florida. We're going to be reaching out to guys, and we got a couple that are waiting to see how their schedule pans out to where we'll announce our next big guests for next week. But as always, we thank everybody for tuning in with us and just growing with us as it just keeps getting bigger and better, partner, and we'll keep growing it.
That's it. Again, you can't watch it on here. It's on YouTube as well. So got options.
That's it. And like, share, comment, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell the guy you really don't even like. Tell them to tune in and watch when we got a show. Let's grow it up. Let's make it big and, start getting to know drivers that maybe not get that doesn't get as much spotlight as some others, and really highlight them. And I'm sure we made a lot of Jack Lahnert and a lot of Dave Camara fans that weren't already out there already tonight. So again, thanks everybody for joining us. For Andy Crane and Gary Predmore, this was the Happy Hour. We'll see you next week.
All right, buddy. Good night.
Good night.